Hey guys, we'll start in a minute's time. If somebody is not able to see, you can come onto the front. So good morning all. So first thing, congratulations to everybody here, whoever is sitting, to ensure that you kill your inner demons, to come on a weekend to learn more. A big claps to everybody here. Anblix is a data, AI, and cloud company. That is what we are. But more importantly, we are an enabler of ecosystem wherever we are. We are in 3 different locations. We are in Hyderabad, we are in Ahmedabad, we are in Dallas. In all the 3 areas, we ensure that we develop a great community of engineers, of futurists, and of visionaries who plan to make a difference, put a dent to the universe. So that is exactly why you guys are here, to ensure that we all collaborate, get more information together, and more importantly, from the 3 leaders of AI who are here with us, okay, starting with Kamesh, Satish, I don't know where you are, hey Satish, and then Sam, who are going to talk about their expertise, and they're going to share their views about how AI is shaping up. Okay, with this as the basis, I will now go ahead and welcome Kamesh. Kamesh, please come. So Kamesh, guys, we all know Kamesh. Kamesh is the lead developer advocate with Snowflake, so we all know him, either directly or we would have heard him sometime. But my interest today to introduce Kamesh is not as a technology leader, but as a human being that he is. So Kamesh, a quick question. Okay, so sorry for putting you on spot, firstly. Okay, second thing is, we know you as a superstar of Snowflake. We know you as a superstar of developer ecosystem. But I heard that there is a superstar connection in your life. Would you want to talk about that?
Yes, 100%. And thank you so much for that. So it's another superstar, basically. You know, right? Who's superstar? South India? Yes, I'm a die-hard Rajnikant fan from day one. I think when Nikhil asked me this thing yesterday, hey, can you tell me what's a softer side of you? Like, this is a softer side of me. Like, apart from work, I'm a first kind of a show guy, like going there, sitting on, I remember that, sitting down and watching Rajnikant movie. So that's the other side of me, okay? So, and also like, it's not just a Rajnikant factor from that side for me, like it's also made me to move to more of a spiritual side, much inspired from this human being as him. And the same human being thing which I'm right now carrying for you as developers, bringing in what I can know, what I can share, to make your lives much easier, to do things that you are all capable of doing, right? That's pretty much, Nikhil. Anything else you want to add?
Not at this minute. I will, in fact, leave the stage to you completely. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think I have to jump between because I have demos to show. I'm not going to take a lot of slides, but I just choose one slide, couple of slides for you to get things started. And then I'm going to shift to my machine to show you some demos, cool things that we launched recently in Summit, so which is going to make your life much, much easier when working with AI. So all those things, like you see those bit.ly link that I have here, so I'm kind of collating all the documents, all the references, Snowflake quick starts, YouTube videos, and other things that I come across, including my demo GitHub repositories. On all the sessions I do across the globe, across India, and on that particular bit.ly link, if you can remember, it could be a living document, which I keep updating whenever I have new content added to it. So you can just go there in case if you miss my commands or if you miss my repositories, everything is there. I've also added my LinkedIn handle on the document. In case if you want to get connected, talk more about AI, Snowflake, what we do here, I'm happy to chat about that as well. All right? This is a little bit about myself. Been in the industry for quite some time. So I started as a Java developer way back in 2000. Like I've been first 16 years of my life my career was all about doing Java and everything. So even today I love Java, doing stuff. But lately I moved into developer advocacy. Since the second part of my career, the last 10 years plus or so, the principal reason is being that I know what pain points that each developers like you go through when adopting a new technology or trying something new, or working on a technology. So I thought to share what all the experiences that I had when I was a developer, which could help you people to make your life much easier and better, is what the whole driving factor behind the scene. End of the day, if you call shortly, the love and empathy that I have for my fellow developers. So I have my GitHub handles, all my socials there on the QR code. If you can scan it, like you can just go connect with me on LinkedIn. Just put a small note where you met me so that it's easy for me to identify who you are, right? Awesome. So, so if people are here, I know like it's kind of like I heard from Bansi that there are people from across Hyderabad here. In case if you're not in Snowflake user group, Hyderabad user group, you can go there, scan the QR code, join Snowflake user group in Hyderabad, across other cities in India, so that like you can also be part of the Snowflake events that is coming up. We are going to gear up for a series of events, developer events starting next month. So just scan this across to watch for the notifications of those events so that you can be part of that. So we are going to have good workshops, a lot of technical sessions, hands-on workshops, et cetera, on that, right? So I'll also share that to Bansi again. Probably you can just share with the whole group on this particular thing where you can go ahead and join, right? And then to make things easy, right? I think I should say like Nikhil made my life more easy, like asking me a very, very simple question, what you are not on the technology side, like. The same principles, even at Snowflake, we're driven by three important principles. One, we make everything easy, efficient, and trusted, right? So one of the things which I want to call out right here is that everybody is doing AI today. Everybody is doing one or the other service on AI. But what is a driving factor of the differentiator between what we at Snowflake do and what others do is making things easier for you, right? The rich developer experiences that we bring in to make you do things much easier, faster, quicker, efficiently, and also more than all, trusted, right? Mean to say like the first thing that comes to any of our mind the moment I say I want to use AI is that my data is going to be shared with someone. Somebody is going to know about my data, right? It's going to be public or somebody is going to use of that, right? We take care of all those things because we are going to deal with enterprise data on AI. So we also call it as where data does more, which means that your data is with you and we make sure that they are trusted and we also use efficiently, right? Because we don't want to burden you in the sake of, okay, using AI with lots of cost, right? We want to make it efficient so that there is always a trade-off between what you want. And last, I think I'll show you on the easy fact. Instead of me talking about easy fact, I'll just show you how easy it is to use things within Snowflake, right? Especially with AI. So this is our whole easy stack that you can call as. Say, for example, like we have a bunch of things. We have already preloaded models. We call them serverless in a way that like you don't need to worry about loading models by yourself. We have a bunch of AI models which is already available for you. All you have to do is like using SQL functions or Python code, just give the model name, for example, Llama or Gemma or whatever it is, and things get starting work for you. We'll show you some examples when I actually show the demo. So that's where we start. And all our foundation models are loaded for you, which means that as a developer or as an application builder or as a person who's using data for enterprise AI, you don't need to worry about how do I load my model, what infrastructure is required, how much cost is going to be there, which cloud I need to host, et cetera, right? Because there's a lot of factors which comes into picture. Since we are seasoned doing it, so we make sure that all these things are right away available for you so that you don't need to worry about that, right? And also, on top of that, we also make sure that we have task-specific SQL functions, which means that if you imagine I'm going to write something, let's say I'm going to parse a document and extract content from it, right? Which is a standard Python code that you always write any document you extract. So we made sure that the parse document function is available. I'm just saying one example of an LLM function. You want to do a classification of text. You want to do forecasting, right? You want to do complete. You want to extract answer, do sentiment analysis. You don't need to write any piece of code to do all these things. We have SQL functions readily available for you the moment you subscribe to Snowflake to use either from SQL or from Python. So we have both the variants readily available for you. So you as a data engineer, data scientist, or business analyst, or everybody, you can straight away start using those functions, right? The second one is LLMs and embedding models. We have the state-of-art LLM model, which are open source, which is called Snowflake Arctic. So we have the embedded models. We recently released the Snowflake Embedded Model 2.0, which allows you to extract content if you're going to do a keyword search. I'll show you an example live. How do we basically define, right? So because once you get into AI, it's not that we are forcing you to be within Snowflake to do everything. So for example, you might be already having an application which you want to connect, just use the AI services of your data that is sitting inside through an API. That's exactly what you're doing with all those functions that we already have. So you can just, for example, let's say I want to define a search service and kind of monetize on my search service, exposing the search service to multiple other stuff. You can just do it right away within, I should say, snap of fingers. I'll show you 3 different little commands that you basically define to kind of create your search service, right? Secondly, and you also want your applications to be interactive, right? That's the next piece. I'm going to talk about data agents, right? That's going to be my core focus for today. Is all about agents, right? So just a very simple question. So what does agent mean to you? Don't leave off AI for a second. Just tell me what is agent. Yes, please. A system or a person who does tasks for me. That's an exact answer, right? So somebody who does things for me, right? For example, we have somebody like, for example, you're applying visa for some place. Like we have somebody who's doing that. If you're doing a passport for something, we have an agent who does this, right? If you're applying for a driver's license, we have people do the stuff, right? So agents is basically someone who's doing something on your behalf, right? And exactly data agents is exactly a direct mapping is that we have defined agents which can do your data tasks on your behalf, right? Which includes orchestration. We'll talk about orchestration in a second, right? So basically, I want to call 10 different tools. If you heard about data-driven workflow, so I want to call 10 different workflows based on my request, right? If I want to do something like that, then that's where the agents comes into picture, right? So people, I think, sometimes people get feared, okay, what is agent? I don't understand what is agent, right? It's something new. It's a new terminology. That's nothing like that. Just map it. Agent is what you see agent in your real life, right? But in this case, we're defining a data agents. So what 2 types of data agents we have? One is orchestration, Cortex agents. We are going to talk about what Cortex agents are there, which is right in public preview right now. And we have 2 other things which are going to use agents to do the job. One is called as Cortex analyst. Basically, it wants something when you want to query or talk to your structured data. What I mean by talking to a structured data? So I don't need to write any SQL. I don't need to write any kind of Python code. I don't need to write any Java code or Golang or any kind of code. I'm just going to use plain English to go talk to my data. And I get the insights back. This is exactly what your business analyst or anybody dealing with the data or any kind of analysis is looking for, because he doesn't know, or he or she doesn't know how to write a query, how to write a Python code, right? All they know is like, okay, can you tell me, for example, like how many people are come to today's meetup, right? This is going to be a stock question that I'm asking you, but I want the insights back if I have an insights on it. That's exactly what Cortex analyst is going to do. Cortex analyst is going to bake things on structured data. The other piece of the whole world is that where I have unstructured data, your PDF documents, your media files, your image files, or TIFFs, or engineering drawings, you can have any kind of things, right? I want to apply the same process on top of that. Mean to say, like, I want to query my unstructured data in a similar way. So that's exactly what Cortex Search is going to do for you, right? And what you also done in Snowflake world is that we also made what is called as an hybrid search. Mean to say, like, you know about semantic search, which basically looks up in a semantic fashion. And we also added keyword search, and we combine them together and fusion the results and give you the top K results, which means that your search is going to be super powerful, right? It's going to be close to near for what you're expecting to be searched, right? And top of those 2 things is like, for example, these I should say, like, we call them as no-code, low-code solutions. There is also something called as no-code, zero-code, right? I'm just going to show you some examples where I just use clicks on Snowsite to create all these functions. Even if you're not a technically qualified guy, you can just do those things with just clicks, right? That's where Studio comes in, AI/ML Studio. I'll show that in my demo. And last piece is, if you heard about this a couple of years ago, we acquired a company called as TrueEra, so which also brings in AI observability, right? So what do I mean by AI observability? Whether my search or AI task are giving me a response which is grounded or context relevant. Right? There are other features that you want to observe and find out from my responses from AI models, saying whether I'm going to get these answers perfectly as I want, or what I need to tune, what parameters I need to change. This is exactly like your app observability, if you heard about, right? Where you have dashboards, where you see whether my application is performing well, or here it's going slow, it is giving me different answers. We have a similar ones for AI as well, right? Where we call as groundness and context relevance, whether my model is grounded in this particular context to give me the answer that I want. So I can also do those observability using AI observability. Probably we will not see that today, but it's right now in private preview. So which means that it's already integrated that into Snowflake Snowsite. So soon it will be GA, so where you can start trying this out as well. Okay. On top of those 2 things is Snowflake Copilot, which is kind of kind of a developer tool that sits in every Snowsite thing. I'll show you a place where it sits, where I can ask it to write query, and you can write the query and you can refine the queries further, right? It's just a co-pilot like anything, like a GitHub co-pilot, a similar co-pilot, but more for data. And Document AI is our classic document thing, which is use Arctic Tilt model, which is again open source model to extract information from documents. And then you can just generate the documents, ask natural questions on the documents to get the response back. Okay. I'm kind of moving this out. I'm not used to having a mic and speak. Okay, sorry about that. All right. So let's get into agents, right? Rather than showing what theoretical, I want to show you how actually the agents work behind the scenes. Let me get into a demo basically to help you do the job. Okay. How can I hold this one? I want to do a demo, but I cannot hold this on. Is there a way I can put this here somewhere so that like it's easy? Clear? Okay. Awesome. So we're going to do three different things today. The first one I'm going to show you is that how I can use Snowflake intelligence to kind of build and kind of ask data and natural question just with clicks of button. Okay. So as I was talking to you about, so if you go to Snowsite, this is Snowsite. If you're not signed up, you can sign up using, there's a free trial, 30-day free trial that you can do. You can sign up for Snowflake account, and then if you go to Snowflake account, you find something called as AI ML here, right? And we have a bunch of stuffs here. So one is called as Cortex Playground, where you can go find out responses from various two different models and trying to see what responses each one give before you choose the model for the application, right? Usually that is the toughest thing that you always have, is because when I want to choose which model I want to use Llama or Gemma or any kind of model that is there in the market, the very first thing I want to understand is what is the response that this model gives for my question, how relevant it is, right? Because smaller models are trained with smaller parameters, which means that responses will not be closer. The bigger models are trained at even more, so they give you a much better responses for your questions. So which means that you have to do a trial and error to go find out this thing, right? We have provided the Cortex Playground right there. You can go explore. I'm not going to talk about create custom LLM, which is a really high advanced thing. The very first thing that I'm going to show to you is how do we do kind of like talking to the data, right, using Snowflake intelligence. The very first thing that you're going to do on this is I'm going to go define what is called as analyst, right? So I'm just going to give a try here. So, and then I'm going to have a support ticket model I already have. I'm going to define a new model. I can click on what is called as create semantic view, right? Earlier, like we had a data which I have to hard code it, but now we have brought that into the Snowflake UI. I click on this, and then I use with guided setup. So I'm just going to start this here. So is it better, or I can make it a little like this? This is clear? Okay. So, and then I'm going to choose a database. For example, I have a database, my LLM demos, or I just use my Snowflake intelligence events. It's going to be a group of events that I have that's going to be happen, the event data, which is event contracts, customer, ticket sales, etc. And then I'm going to say like, okay, I need a stage to be defined. So what I do, let me go to my stage, LLM demo. I have a stage available here, and I choose a stage called as my models. I call them as event data or something, okay? These are, I'd say, semantic model information or insights about events, okay? I'm not going to deeper into this, but you can give a deeper description of this. And then I'm going to say it's called as event data.yaml. End of the day, it's a YAML file. I'm going to select the table where I'm going to have a data. I'm just going to say my SI events table. If you remember the database which I have, I told you I have 4 tables here: contracts, customers, events, ticket sales. So this is where I'm going to play with all my deriving insights around this data. And then I click next to kind of select what all the columns. I'm just going to select all the columns from all the tables, okay, which are going to be used. Or you can also pick and choose which columns you want. And now I click create and save, that's all. So now I'm going to have a semantic view created for me, which means that if you know what a semantic view is, that's kind of a most human understandable form of data sitting on top of your data, right? If you see actual tables and data within things, which is all more like, for example, I have customers, customer ID, event ID, all those kind of definitions based on your business, right? But when business analysts see the data, right, he knows more from a semantic side of things, right? It's more like what human readable side of things, if you call it, put it that way. I'll show you what I mean by that, right? For example, I got all these tables created here, okay? Let's go to a specific table, let's go to events table. So there's something called as dimensions. Basically, dimensions are nothing but like how we can derive the data, right? It gives you a hierarchical structure if you want to go drill down into data. Dimensions could be any kind of formula. For example, there could be time dimensions, which means that years, month, days, etc., etc. So these are the dimensions which gets defined. And then if you see here, when I define a semantic model, my semantic model also gives me various kind of synonyms for the data, because this is all the synonyms that I think where a business user might come and ask a question on, right? You can improve on top of this. This is something generated, but you can basically add any kind of synonyms, right? For example, let's say an event, in my case, where I'm having a music festival event. So I'm also say like I want to call this as, add another extra sub to this end. So let me see. I can also call this a show. I can also call this a concert, okay, for example, right? These are the two things which I can also put to this particular event name, right? So that's what I mean by dimensions here. So let me go and save this one here. So I have to go down and save the data. And then I can also have relationships defined, right? Before we go to relationships, let's do one thing, right? I have my data loaded, okay? The very first question I want to ask my data, let me pull my question rather than typing to save time. I want to ask like, what are the different events? These are the musical events that happens in Europe. Let me pull this a little this side. And I'm going to ask a question saying, hey, tell me what are the events that happens in Europe, right? So this is a normal English question, a natural language question that I'm asking on my data. And you should see here, I got the data from my answer because I've defined the semantic model. My semantic model basically brought me back the data saying, okay, there are these events, Instead Fest, OK Fest, Difficult Fest, and Wall Fest, which is happening across Europe with these data, right? Now you, non-technical person, as a business analyst who tried to derive insights from my data, this is how he's going to ask. He's not going to sit down and write a SQL query, right? I obviously have a SQL query generated if you're interested, right? A physical query and a semantic query. So if you want to give it to your application development team, hey, use this particular query for your application, then I can use that as well, right? But more from an application that's going to be exposed to the third party, right? In case if you're partners or customers or end users, and all these people who don't understand anything technically, for them the question is more relevant, right? That's what you're doing here. And also what you can also do on top of this is that we can go ahead and define relationships, right? So let's define two relationships here. For example, I'm going to one relationship, I'm going to go do an inner join, many to one. I'm going to go from ticket sales and to events. I'm going to join event ID and event ID here. So this is a natural join that I'm doing right now to understand what all the events and the related ticket data, right? If you want to grim that particular thing out. So I just call this as ticket sales. Let me call this ticket sales or ticket event sales, okay? Just to make, so give any name you want, okay? And that's it. So this is going to be the first query that I'm going to have. So, okay, let me edit this. Okay, let me save this one. So what's happening? Semantic model, event ID. Okay. Okay, I know the problem. What happened was, when I kind of generated this data, so my event ID got into my facts. Event ID is not a fact. Since it's a number, so usually what happens, facts within a semantic model is something which you can aggregate, do sum of, to get percentage and all these stuff, right? Since my event ID is a number, by default what happened when the semantic model was generated, that particular thing was put in a fact instead of a dimension, because it's a dimension thing, it's not a fact thing. So what I have to basically do here, even before I do this, I can just move this to dimension. That's it. So whenever you feel, when you are working with a semantic model, obviously you'll work this with your business analyst. You won't be doing it alone, right? He knows which is a dimension, which is a fact, right? So just going to move this one to this, okay? And then I'm also going to do a bunch of, so let me delete this relationship now. and come back to this later. And then I also have bunch of facts and ticket sales as well, which I need to move to dimensions, because all IDs are dimensions, not your fact, right? Because the only fact here is price, because that's where I can do sum or aggregation or another kind of functions on the top of this, right? Let me see if I got everything done. So it should also be a customer thing where I want to move the customer ID as well, all right? So now my semantic model is valid right now. You saw an error because it was not able to do this. Okay, this is the power, right? As I said earlier, the power of getting an AI platform is not just giving you all the models available in the market and all the fanciest stuff. It's what is a rich developer experience that I can bring for you, right? By click of buttons, right? I know, like, I made a mistake right now. I was corrected your mistake right before you, right? This is what you want to do, right? When you are building an applications, this is exactly what you want to do, right? I want to know what mistakes I'm making so that I can also correct my mistakes, right? It's not that I know everything in the world, correct, right? So that's what Snowflake intelligence adds to it. Like, we'll say how I'm going to use this intelligence now. So we have the events thing defined right now. Obviously, my relationship will also be working right now because my relationship is good. Okay, I'm going to say event ID here and then save. So now I have a ticket event sales. Let me go and define one more thing. So I'm just going to have ticket sales to customer because I'm going to query the data. So what relationships will basically do for you in this case is that whenever you do a natural language query, it's going to add fuel to the query because it knows what relationship needs to be used so that it goes fine-grain the data and query it more efficiently, right? Even otherwise, it's going to query the data, but you will have irrelevant answers. You have to keep querying it, fine-tuning your prompts multiple times before you actually go and get it. That's exactly what I'm going to. So I'm going to say ticket to customer. I'm going to say customer sales. That's what I'm going to say here. And then in a join, relationship type is many to one. I'm going to call this label as customers, right? Table as ticket sales. Don't worry about this. Again, there will be a question, okay, which table I have to put in left, which table I have to put in right for performance. Don't worry about all those things. Those things are already optimized by Snowflake for you. Even if you put the other way around, when the table optimizer is going to kick in, so it's going to take care of. All modern data engines are capable of doing it, so don't worry about that. So I'm just going to pick customer ID and customer ID here, right? That's all. And I'm going to say add. So this is going to add stuff for me, so which means that I already have stuff ready with me. So let's go do a query here. So I'm just going to ask a question, how many ticket sales were done on this particular fest, okay? Let's go and let me save once so that everything is saved while the save happens. So now I'm going to do a query here and then run this one here. So now he's going to get an answer saying like, that's fine. My person is like, I can do a query again. So it's take a little time for indexing. So there we go. Run again. So since I'm not saved while I was asking the question, so you see this one? The question is answered here, and this is where the relationship comes into picture. So it automatically able to infer the relationship that I need to do so that I can fine-grain my data when I'm querying this one, all right? Awesome. So we have done the first piece of doing your intelligence, right? The second piece is that I want to go define a search service, right? So how do I search my data? So what I'm going to do right now, I've just saved this one. Go to Cortex search, okay? And I'm going to choose the database. So for example, I already have contracts. Probably I can just suspend, bring it up, but I want to show you how you actually define this. So I go to my table named SI events. I'm going to pick this table up, okay? And then I'm going to create a search service. I can put it anywhere I want. Okay, I'm just going to call it as contracts, event contracts. I'll tell you what I'm doing here. So I'm going to select a data. So I have a contracts table, so which basically has pointers to my data, which is pointing outside, right? Which is like, for example, SharePoint or Google Drive or anywhere. You can use the connector to this. What the search service I'm going to do right now is going to extract the document and take the data and chunk it so that you can query the document also in a natural language question, okay, like what do you search on this, right? And that too, just clicking of buttons, right? That's where I'm talking about. So there's going to be text where I'm going to search stuff, I'm going to select a thing. I'm going to use document title and URL, which is going to be there. Select columns, obviously all columns. And then I'm going to configure the indexing. So this is what I was talking to you about. There is two models which you can use embed. So embed is nothing but like it converts the text into what you call a two-dimensional vector, right? If you heard about these vector DBs like ChromaDB, Pinecone and all these stuff, they store the data in vector format, which is two-dimensional to multi-dimensional floating point numbers that is stored. Whenever you do a semantic search, a keyword and the actual question get maps into a particular space. All the same words will come under the same space within your semantic space, right? So within Snowflake, you don't need to worry about this because we already have a database. So you don't need an external database like ChromaDB or Pinecone or anything to store your vectors. You can just store that within our thing. So in Snowflake Arctic Embed and Arctic Embed 2.0, these are the models which does this naturally for you, right? So what is the big advantage you're getting again from a developer experience perspective is that I don't need to do any kind of code. If you go just don't see anything on Snowflake now, if you go Google, how do I write a chunk or extract a PDF, you will get a tons of like 600, 700 lines of Python code which needs to be written. I need to have one ChromaDB kind of vector database. I have to connect these two things to do all those tasks, right? With Snowflake, everything is taken care for you. I just create a search service pointing to a particular text and I'll take care of doing everything for you. You don't need to worry about it, okay? That's the developer experience you're bringing in. So I'm going to leave this to 1.5 default and create a search service. Let it get created. It takes few seconds for it to kind of give me the data, index the data and get the data out. I'll show you what exactly the data looks like, right? So what is behind the scenes is doing is that is getting the PDF, extracting the data out of the PDF, basically the text from the PDF or any kind of TIFF or JPEG, all the supported formats, take the text out and kind of convert the text into chunks, right? Chunks is means splitting them into like 500 characters kind of stuff. That's how the query happens. And then convert the chunk into a vector, so which is a two-dimensional or n-dimensional floating point numbers. The same name, for example, if I go query Kamesh with a floating point number with another question as Kamesh, they're going to go into the same space, which means that I know to get what all the relevant documents that has this data, right? That's how it works, right? So let's see if I have this refreshed again, okay? I got a playground here, so okay, so which means that you can also verify if my data is working well or not. You can just do some queries to this data to find out if I'm getting the answers back correctly, right? So let's not do that. We'll go with Snowflake Intelligence for now. So, but that's again is another niche, what I call developer experience stuff that we are handling, right? You don't need to go all the way to deploy and find, okay, my search is not working, right? You can use my playground, find out whether my search is working, refine your search parameters, or refine your indexing parameters and all of the stuff that we did using creating service, and then finally publish a version of the service which could be used, okay? So where are we going to use this? That's another thing where the real stuff comes into picture. So the whole point here, what I'm talking about is that we have agents, but the real point is how do we orchestrate agents to work together, right? That is the key thing when you are developing an application. Because we can have multiple agents, all agents can do super job that they want to do, but how do you wire them up to make things work for you, right? That is exactly, for example, when I give a query, I want the query to go to the semantic model and as well as to search the documents and get the data for me, right? I don't want two different tools to do this job for me. That's exactly what Snowflake Intelligence is going to do for you, okay? I'm just going to do a duplicate of this window. Let me go here, and then I'm going to go to agents. So this is a problem that happened like when I kind of bloat my, I have to see here. Okay, let's go here. Snowflake ML Studio. I'm going to go to agents. Come here, come on. ML models. Agents comes at last. So excuse me for a second. I just need to make this smaller. So the first thing I'll do is define an agent, right? So I'm going to create an agent. I'm going to call this agent as a music festival agent. Okay. Two more things I need to do. So, okay. I went to agents. If you see the AI ML Studio here, and then if you scroll down, you'll see an agent thing where I'm going to define an agent now. So I'm going to say, I'm just going to copy and paste this here just for the sake. And then once I go to the agent has two different things that it gives you, right? A semantic model that I can attach to this agent, okay? So I'm just going to say, pick this up. If you remember, I was doing that on my LLM demo database. I'm going to go there, pick the data up, and go to the stages called as my models. and I should have the event data. If you remember, this is a semantic model that we created earlier. I'm going to select this one. The second one is I'm going to go a search service, right? So again, go to the same database. If I remember correctly, I just did that in my LLM demo. And did I do it in my LLM demo? Where did I do this? Which database this particular stuff is in? Okay, events public, okay, it's here, okay. So I'm going to go here, not this one, SI events and public and contracts, okay. That's going to be the search service. So why it is not getting added? Okay, I just need to give a name, contract, okay. And then I'm going to choose a URL column, obviously. So these are the references that will come into picture when you actually search. I'll tell you where these are comes in. So I'm just going to call this as contract documents and add these ones. And you can also add some sample questions if you want. I'll tell you where these sample questions comes, right? So whenever I'm giving this view to somebody to play with it, right, I want to give them an idea of what all the possible questions that you can ask it, right, so that they can start building the questions mentally. So that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to add, I have a bunch of questions to the agent. So I'm going to ask this question, one, I'll put this one here, and I'll also add another question, which is going to basically ask something from a document, okay, just to keep things simple, okay, and then create. So the agent is now created. Now what happens is that this is where things get interested, right? Cortex agents are APIs, which means that I can use it from Snowside, or I can also give it a call from my own application, right? Agent run. The agent will run and give you the thing. I'll show you that when I do the MCP demo in a second, right? So when I go here, the last thing I have to do right now is, let me zoom this down. Go to agents now. I think next tab is, I need to go one more down. The Snowflake Intelligence, if you see on AI ML, click on Snowflake Intelligence. I go to Snowflake Intelligence here, okay? And then you should see my agents here, right? The music festival agent that we created right now. So open a new chat, go to this, select this music festival agent. If you see this sample questions, this comes here. I'm going to ask a question here, show me what all the stuff. It's going to go plan the stuff up, and then it's going to execute the SQL and give you the data back, okay? So it's executing the SQL. You can click this details to find out what it's doing. It also gives you the CTE for you, and the data will be applied for you, and then the answers will be given to you in a second, right? It says insert fest gave so much of tickets, all those things. The data is going to be there within your application. It's bringing out the data and showing the data to you, okay? For example, I can also ask it like, can you chart the data, okay? In case I want to chart the data, I don't want a textual format. I just going to ask this one. Let me see if it can chart the data. So which means goes take the data out and gives you a bar chart, okay? Let me see if that's going to be data to chart tool, which is getting used there. So now you see this Snowflake Intelligence automatically chooses the tool within your tool chain that you have defined, and find out which tools has to be used to do visualization, get the data out, search the document, etc., etc. Okay. Here we have used semantic thing. Now you got the bar chart now. Okay. Probably I'll just zoom a little down so that it's clear here. Okay. So you also have a table of data. You also have a chart of data. Okay. Another interesting thing is not, since we have defined two tools, right? Now what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to ask another question, which is going to be from my contracts. Okay. I'm going to ask a question saying, what is the cancellation policy? This is not in any of my data, right? It's going to be there in my documents, contract documents, which I have chunked and then defined it as part of a search service. It's going to go and ask the question on this data to give me what is the cancellation policy for this particular brand. I mean the band which is going to cancel this one because it's a musical event that's happening. So it's kind of getting the data out. So it's also got these ones, and then it goes all these documents has information about it. That's where the URL, if you remember, we chose the URL when we kind of do this one. These are dummy documents, they're dummy URLs, but you can point to the actual contract document URL so that people can go there and see more details about it. But here, it gives you detail about 25% guarantee, 50% guarantee, etc., etc. Okay. Now, you're doing everything in one single place called a Snowflake Intelligence, right? So this is where the whole thing is happening. I've defined a contract, I defined a thing, I chunked, I've defined a search service, I defined a semantic model, I brought everything together, defined an agent. Agent is now, in this case, is orchestrating all these tools together to make things work for you, right? Now you as a business analyst or any kind of an analyst, you're just going asking English language questions against your data where you're using an agent. All right? Sounds great? Thank you. Okay, all right. So I'm going to show you even more interesting one beyond this, right? So what also we can do is, right, as I told you, these agents are not just you have to do from Snowsite or Snowflake interface. I can also use it from any of my chat client. How many of you heard about MCP, Model Context Protocol? Okay, so if you use Claude, for example, the one that I have right now here is Claude here. So I'm using Claude or any other chat, your chat GPT or any kind of a tool that basically supports Model Context Protocol. What I can also do is I can also talk to Cortex agents from my Model Context Protocol. Okay, I'll show you a piece of code where the API is there. So this is going to be another one which I'll show you in a second. I'm running a simple agent MCP server. If you see here, if you've seen that agent, when we click the agent, right, we clicked on multiple stuff. We give a name, we give an thing, and then we added a bunch of tools. If you remember, one was your semantic model, another one your search service, right? That's exactly what we do here. This is the JSON variant when I want to create it using an API. I can also do on clicks on the screen, or I can send API calls to kind of basically go create the agent, right? And then use the agent for my application. In this case, I'm going to use two agents kind of thing. I'm going to have one analyst, the same like thing what you're going to have. I have a semantic model on customer support tickets. Let me go to my thing and show you what data I have. Where I go. This in workspaces, another nice little thing. Go explore this. This is amazingly nice one. So if I go have here, I have a bunch of support tickets, customer support tickets that I have. Naturally, any kind of support tickets you could imagine. So I'm kind of querying this data, this particular data. Say, okay, let me. This is a problem happens when you kind of have blowing up your windows, right? So, so this is going to give you a bunch of customer support tickets. What are tickets the customer has raised? Okay, this is a very sample data again, and also I have a bunch of documents which basically has the invoice details of each of these customers. So what are the invoices? Last few invoices, bunch of invoices. So what I'm going to do right now is going to use my chat box here using Model Context Protocol, which basically uses MCP, which is an open source thing from Claude. You can go, I think I have an URL shared with you as well. And then I also have this quick start to get this started. Use Cortex agent to kind of go query my data and get a response from within this particular window. Okay, that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay. So for example, as I said earlier, so let me go and find out, I want to find out a question asking like how many unique customers within the support ticket of cellular service type and have email as their preferred contact. Okay, this is going to be my question, all right? So I'm just going to give a call here, and then what I basically did here was, let me make it a little here. When I deploy agents, my Cortex agents is deployed here and enabled here on your tool. Any tool should have a similar thing for that. For example, if I go to settings of Claude, on the developer side, I have deployed the same application which I showed you, the Python code. I'm running it from within Claude. So Claude will be able to connect to that Python code and get you answer back. That's what is happening, right? Many cases what happens, the tools, the LLM tools, right, will not be having access to your internal tools. So in those cases, what we basically do, use Model Context Protocol to make LLM connect to that internal tool. The internal tool in turn will connect to your data within, get the response back and send it to Claude, and then Claude will kind of format and do it. Claude or any kind of tool for that matter. Okay? This is exactly what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to call this one, and then unique customer support tickets. I'm just going to give this call here. Now it's going to go to Claude. Go behind the scenes, get the data, see here, cellular service type, email as a contact preference, and get back my data saying like how many customers are having email as a thing. This is going to be my data behind the scenes, right? So this is what it's doing right now. He says 55 unique customers are raised cellular service ticket type. Okay, this is what happens here, right? So if you want to verify this data, I still have the Snowflake intelligence open. I go to this agent. I have a support ticket agent. I can ask the same question here. Okay, the same agent which I have deployed earlier. I'm kind of using this agent here to kind of do this thing for me. I think I dropped this agent, I guess. Let me refresh this. Okay. Yeah, support ticket agent. Okay, and then Snowflake intelligence. All right, and then go here. I'll use my support ticket agent and ask him the same question which he asked right now. Okay. Should also give me, so this is right within Snowflake using Snowflake intelligence, but what we saw outside was getting it from outside, right? So, but it was using an API to kind of code. What I was trying to say right now is we have two options here. You can build everything right within Snowflake and give the exposure access to it, or you can go out of Snowflake, connect your existing applications to the data inside. But everything easy, connected, and trusted, right? We are making sure that everything is not very complicated for you behind the scenes. So it also gives you this kind of a breakdown. It's a little more detailed than what we have, okay? The other one, for example, is not only restricted to the data, semantic data, right? Since it's an agent, I can also go query the data on the documents, right? I'm going to have an invoice document. I'm going to call this one. I'm going to ask this for, was he charged a roaming fee? And if so, which invoice? If you remember, I had a set of invoice documents. Invoice has these details, okay? So this is now it's going to play a smarter way right now. That's what the power of Snowflake intelligence is all about. I have semantic model, I have a search service. Now it takes a call on to find out which service I need to use to go find the data out. That's the thing that's done by Snowflake automatically using LLMs behind the scenes. You don't need to worry about, but you can be very specific saying, okay, I want to use only search tool, I want to use only semantic tool, but by default it's auto, which means that Snowflake decides which one needs to be picked. For example, you see for this question, it asks me like this guy has been charged $85, this guy has been charged this one, etc., right? So which means that it's going and fetching the data from an invoice and giving it back to you. Now I connected my application. Imagine that this flawed window that you're seeing right now is an application which is talking to Cortex agents using API. All right? This is second one. The another cool stuff, okay, I'm going to show you now is how do I use an orchestration framework to basically talk to my data in your language, using Cortex agents. Okay? If you remember, I'm going to use the same customer support ticket data that I have. And before I go into this, pardon me if my Telugu translations in this is wrong. Okay? It was all done using APIs. Okay? So I'm going to start this one. There is an open source framework in Snowflake Labs. I put that on the document, which is called as an orchestration framework, where I can have a series of tool chains, for example, Python tools plus Cortex Search plus Cortex Analyst, everything put together, start querying your data, right? In your language, because Cortex Analyst right now cannot understand any other language other than English. So which means that for that to do, what I was to basically do, I'm going to give Cortex the English language translation, translate it back and get it back here, right? If you see there is a workflow involved here, right? I need to first translate and then identify the language, translate the language, get the translation to Cortex, and then Cortex gets the answers back. Again, I have to do a translation, get the answer back to you. Okay? These are the workflow which is involved here. This is where the agent whole framework comes into the picture. We need something to orchestrate, and we have at Snowflake something which can orchestrate the job for you. All right? So let's see how this works. So I'm just going to start this one, give a call here, make sure everything is working for me. I'm able to connect to Snowflake. Okay, just make sure that my thing is listed. We have two models we see. I'm going to go to the same one which you did right now. So I'm going to use, if you heard about Sarvam AI has all the language models for the 22 different Indian languages right now, right? I think if you've seen recently, they also signed the MOU with Government of India for doing all the language, Indian language stuff, okay? I'm going to use Sarvam kind of API to kind of translate from whatever language I have, right? In this case, I'm going to use to translate from Telugu, okay? And then right now I have all these things created. The first thing what I do with orchestration framework is that I have to define bunch of tools, okay? The first tool config, if you see here, analyst, the same ticket, if you remember support tickets YAML, which is what we use for all this thing. I'm just saying something here for this and then giving a Snowpark session, okay? Similarly, a search service, I have an invoice search, which basically goes search all those documents, all right? So I'm going to give this one here. And in the Python tool configuration, I have three different tools. One to identify the language, whether Telugu, Tamil, Hindi, Malayalam, whatever it is. And then I have a translator which basically translates the question from Telugu to English, okay? And then finally, I have an answer translator which is going to translate the answer from Cortex back to whatever language you are, right? But now the cool thing here is that everything is planned by LLM. You don't need to do anything. All you have to do is like when you define this tool, make it the tool description, output description has to be appropriate so that my LLM can perfectly find out what needs to be done. I'll show you how the LLM decides it, right? In this case, I'm saying identify the language of the question, it should identify the question and return for the other tools to use. Okay, this is again a normal English one. Translator, use identify language from the right tool, for example, Tamil, Telugu, Hindi and all these things, and convert the translation into English, okay, and pass it to Cortex Analyst tool. Okay, the Cortex Analyst and Cortex Search are standard tools. You don't need to do anything extra here. All you have to give is a Snowflake session to them. Okay, I'm just going to define these tools here. This is done. Then I have to build these tools. It's just another Python code kind of collection of array of tools which I'm going to pass to this orchestration framework. Okay, the orchestration framework is open source. You can go read the whole document. I have the link on the reference document that I have. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to test it, right? So I'm just going to say, translate the question from the detected language to English. This is a prompt that you usually write. Send translated question to Cortex Analyst. Translate the answer back to original language. And ensure that like these are something which little details that I'm giving to it. Okay, I'm just going to do this again. Click on this, right? Now comes the interesting part. Okay, so I think I made a little translation as I said earlier. So the first question is exactly I just copied pasted here. Can you show me a breakdown of customer support tickets on this one? Right now, if you ask this question right now, this is going to use the tools that I have defined in my tool chain. Use LLM behind the scene to plan everything. Okay. So if I expand this one and go here, if you see this plan was a thought that was generated by the tool. Okay, this is saying that I need to translate the question to English, then query support tickets model, and finally translate the answer back to the original language, which in this case is Telugu, right? So I got this question. If you see these tools, the tool chains that is getting invoked, 1, 2, 3, these are the tool chains that is getting invoked on your tool chain. Okay. And then obviously there is a translation happen. It identifies the language to be Telugu. te.in is Telugu language code. And then finally it gave you an answer. See these questions here. And I leave the last part to you guys to decide whether it gave you the right answer or not. Right? This is giving you an answer in Telugu. Right? I'm asking Cortex in Telugu. It is giving you answer in Telugu. Right? In between the orchestration framework is taking care of changing whatever the up and down of it, right? It's getting English to something, or Hindi to something, or Bengali to something, or Tamil to something, or Kannada to something, whatever language you are. But that is where the power of orchestration comes into picture, right? But how this is possible is because with Cortex agents, we have exposed them as APIs, right? Which means that it's able for you to kind of wire things up as you want, okay? Let's play with a couple of more questions here. So one, I think we already played with this one. I want to do a structured, unstructured data questions, right? We need to say, I'm going to go question on a document, right? There's an invoice, all right? So I think this one is right? Was he charged a roaming fee, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I think this should get me the answer, I guess. Okay, the last one. Okay. So on the invoice, I'll tell you what the invoice I'm using here, okay? Let me go to my demos. SWT, okay, this is 9987 data, okay. So this is the invoice that I'm querying on, okay. The plan that Gregory has a service line 2 plan. This document is already indexed within Cortex Search and is available for you to do the query, okay. I'm going back and using the same tool chain right now to kind of go query this one right now, okay. So go back here to the up. I think I understand this question is right, okay. What service plan this particular person is having. So sometimes it did not return me few answers because my translation was very raw, okay. So the actual translation did not happen right now. Now it goes here, finds out the whole stuff. It's trying to find out that it's not getting the one here, and then like it should get an answer right now. So was this correct? No. Let me translate the query. Did it get his answer? Was this the right answer? Can anybody say me? Yeah, it does. It does? Okay, great. So that's what it does right now because I cannot, sorry, I just did the translation. So that's the power we can bring in with Cortex APIs, right? Because now the imagination is infinity for you. You can do anything you want right now with Cortex because APIs is there. The facilities, how to chunk the data is there. Everything we are giving you, the better the developer experience. Now you as a developer, all you have to do is just build the applications using them, right? You don't need to worry about how do I load a model, how many GPUs I need, how many CPUs I need, what I need. Just subscribe to Snowflake. Everything is there for you. You don't need to worry on that, all right? I think that's pretty much I have. Let me flip back to my slides and see if I have anything further left out. Or I think these are the ones which you saw right now. I'm just going to leave to the last screen. I think at the forum one, I think this document has all the details. I mean, the documents I said like orchestration framework, other stuff which is required here is everything is right there. I keep updating to this particular one. This document is publicly available, so you don't even need an access. I keep updating the document with all new demos that I do. And even the latest one demo on orchestration framework, I'm going to release a LinkedIn video soon, so you can find out that on the YouTube as well. So, but go into this document, you have anything to get started with Snowflake, Cortex, Gen AI, all the stuff that's required, and I have my LinkedIn handle in that, in case if you want to connect, ask more questions. And that's pretty much I have. Probably I will open up for any specific questions that might be there. Yes, please.
Hi Kamesh, this is Anudeep from Blend 360. I've been working on the Cortex analyst as well as the Cortex search services. There are very specific questions. So before Snowflake intelligence came out, I worked on something on a hybrid model, which Snowflake intelligence is. So like let's say I have specific requirement like sales.pdf and sales data in the database. Now, when I actually, before Snowflake intelligence, whenever I say, okay, give me sales from so-and-so, it was not able, I mean, it was giving correct, I used Claude 3.5 Sonnet model. It was giving me proper details from the database one day, the other day it was taking the data from the search service. So what I was thinking is probably like you mentioned, we use keywords in order to help and tell the business person, use these keywords to do it. Now I just wanted to know like in Snowflake intelligence, what is, I mean behind the scenes, do you know like what exactly is being used in order to make sure that it understands it has to go to the database and it understands it has to go through the search service?
Okay, so to answer the question, very simple and straightforward, agents. That's the answer, right? Because see, for example, like it's not defined like you just give the keywords, right? You cannot go tell people that a specific keyword, right? Because when this whole thing is designed, it has to be, the semantic model has to be designed with a business analyst. Okay. You as a developer can never, you can do a semantic model because at the end of the day, it's an YAML for you, right?
Yeah.
But business analysts know, or any kind of analyst know what is the right name for this particular dimension when they query it. So whenever you build a semantic model, you should definitely have a system analyst or business analyst with you to kind of build the model. That's a very first basic thing, right? Second, behind the scenes, right? See, that's where I think, I don't know what is the underlying work because it's more core platform stuff that is being done. But only thing I can say is that there is an agentic orchestration that is happening behind the scenes. Even for example, when I query a semantic model, right? It gives you a query. I show that it gives you a physical query of actual query on the thing, right? That's where we used a text to SQL agent, which is already there within Snowflake, which we have defined, which actually converts this particular semantic query into an actual SQL query, right? That agent is there, and the intelligence is, that's where we talk about the Snowflake intelligence, because it is built in such a way that like it goes search for this database semantic thing. If it does not find anything there, it goes finds out this on the search service, right? And then gets the data for you. Correct. Since you're doing it separately earlier, now we have bought in things to do one place. All you have to do is to define a search service, define a semantic model service. That's all you require.
Yeah, basically we use Streamlit to do it. Now Snowflake intelligence basically has the UI.
The example, I ran a notebook, right? The same application you can connect using a Streamlit application. It's no big deal, right? I just use notebooks for example's sake. But you can also use Streamlit to kind of build the application, or you can use something within Snowflake, the agents one, right, which can be available. Since right now, it's not, I should say, like since the private preview till now, what basically happens right now, the UI is not completely controllable, access controls and everything is not ready right now. By the time it gets to GA or PUPR, you should have all those things ready for you.
Yeah, and for Snowflake intelligence, we still need the Cortex analyst and Cortex search service
Yes,
as it
yes,
is.
those are the backbones of it. Yes,
Yeah,
you need that.
as like earlier we had to do the same thing, and it is just that we have to tell the Snowflake intelligence use that agent.
That's right. Okay. And in fact, we introduced this thing called a semantic view. So you heard of normal view in this. So we introduced a new object called a semantic view. I showed you like while throwing clicks, you can also use a SQL, create semantic view, define everything and create a semantic view. That's also possible.
Yeah.
Right?
And any details with respect to the cost? So when we work with the clients, it is more on the cost. So just wanted to understand.
I don't have information right now on the cost. And again, I'm coming from a
developer no worries,
side of things. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, we're coming over.
Any other questions?
Yeah, hi, this is Hasham. So we are connecting through the MCP models to the Snowflake semantic layer, right? So how does Snowflake ensures the data security, access governance when we are accessing the context enterprise data?
That's a great question actually. So to be very honest, when you do MCP, right, actually the question gets passed on to your server, right? I define an MCP server, for example, Cortex agent, which used your Snowflake credentials, Snowflake role, Snowflake everything, semantic model and semantic search service to go query the call. Only the data that is got outside it is returned back to Cortex or the MCP client to kind of basically do this. There is two components, right? In MCP, there is one thing called as client, which is your Claude interface that you saw. The second one was, like, for example, like, let me go here and show you. This is your client that you're using here, right? This client basically connects to what is called as your agent server, right? The server is running here. So server is the one which is calling your Snowflake thing, which means the server can reside within your premises, right, with access controls or whatever you want, right? And for the server to work, okay, I give all the standard Snowflake credentials, role and everything here. Okay, let me go up, see here. I'm giving you the PAT, semantic model file, everything, and then I'm using Snowpark connection to basically establish a API call, right? Which means that whatever access controls, governance and everything that you already defined on Snowflake is going to come into picture when I'm going to query this, right? So for example, if I change the service name to wrong, say I got multiple errors when I was trying this demo because I gave a different service name which this role doesn't have an access to. So I got a 404, basically your client will not work saying like it gives you a 404 saying that I don't know this particular service, right? Which means that it's not having access to that particular service. So the control is within you, right? The only thing that is returned back to the client in this case is just the data response, right? Your JSON response, right? Which comes out, right? If you are masked the data, obviously a JSON response will also be masked, which means that even Cortex or any kind of Claude or any kind of agents, even those agents cannot read the data, right? It again depends upon you, right? What data you define, what access control you define is what is being used. Only the data response is kind of chunk turned and then given in your English language format. That's all. So can you come again with the question, please?
So when we are extracting the data, so that could be enterprise sensitive data, right?
Right.
Or specific
Right.
sensitive data.
Right.
So that is being extracted through the MCP. There could be a leveraging
It's not extracted to MCP.
Extracted
I think
in the sense,
that's a wrong again. So on that to answer your question perfectly, right? So even if you do a select star from within Snowsite, if you're not masked the data or if you not apply the row access policies, column access policies or whatever it is on the data, still your Snowsite is going to show you the data. Even there you are exposing the data, right? The only thing, the difference I'm doing is that instead of using Snowsite, I'm giving an API call to it, right? A SQL API call. So the question right now is on the governance is with you, what I should see when I get the data queried, right? Which means that you have to define the policy right at Snowflake side so that this data is masked and returned it or some kind of a thing, whatever you want to do, so that the same response is given back even when I do an API call. I just do an API call here, just do a SQL API call. Instead of you doing it within Snowsite, I'm doing it from my client, right? Which is exactly the same. So now the total control is with you, right? I think this is one thing which whenever you go to cloud, there is a shared responsibility model, right? Which is not that the provider alone owns it, it's also the person who's using it owns the responsibility of defining your governance, right? So if you define the governance at your side, then it's going to be the same thing that even MCP is going to see it, or any other application for the matter.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Uh, when you are using application or a third-party application, you are giving access to the data. Now, as a user, to consume this, should I have the access to Snowflake?
Yes.
Without access, can
see,
I?
when I'm accessing the data, so taking the same MCP example, if I understand you correctly, the same MCP example, the server is calling Snowflake on your behalf, the client's behalf, right? Which means that you should have access to Snowflake to get the data. So which is mandatory, like any other case. Yeah.
Being a user, anyone should have access.
Yes, whatever access is defined by you. So whatever your client is going to query on, so it should, otherwise it's just going to return you a 404 saying I cannot access your data. That's all. So which is as simple as that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? I think you're done with the question. Probably if you're done with the question, I would probably take a big selfie if you can raise your hands. Okay, so that helps me for my post. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, over to you, Nikhil.
From our side, you've taken time. By the way, he was traveling the last 2 weeks. He was there for Snowflake Summit, and then thereafter he's been traveling. You have taken time for us just for these 2 hours. You've traveled again, so big thank you to you. Okay, and I'm very sure all of us have had enough understanding about Cortex, all thanks to him, and all the hot news from Snowflake Summit. So big thank you. Thank you. So, as a token of appreciation, we do have a couple of things. Okay, I'd request Samir to come over onto the stage. So, made possible thanks to the wonderful partner that we have, Snowflake.
And just to add to your thing, Nikhil, I think it's more than all traveling. I'd love to see anything that biggest for a developer advocate is that to see a room packed with people, right? So that gives you more energy to talk, more thing to call. Even I'm not worried. I hardly slept 3 hours a day since I landed on Sunday because I'm still reeling under my jet lag. But I love this crowd because you're all so keen to learn things about Snowflake. And that's the thing that pushes you to kind of come to it's not just 2 hours, it's just to see all you people, okay? Thank you so much for coming down, and I appreciate really.
Guys, we do have a small break, okay? The breakout room is already known to you. The pantry is where we will be going now. Okay, we will reconvene in about 15 minutes. Okay, in the meanwhile, you can use the time also to network with fellow developers here. And if you need anything, our volunteers are around. They'll be able to help you with anything that you need. Take your seats. Guys, we will be starting in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's working. Hello, hello. It's okay.
Everyone will be starting in about 2 minutes. Please take your seats. Already, guys, settle down. We'll be starting in less than 30 seconds. So Samir is here and everything is set. So please sit down, settle down. Already, guys. So let me take a minute to. Yes, guys. So, okay. So let me take a minute to introduce the man of the hour, Samir. Samir, please come over. Samir is the Chief Innovation Officer at Anblix, and his team has been doing some amazing work. By amazing, I have proven stats around it. These guys have built something like 18 solutions in the last 12 months. So that's the pace at which they are going at, about 1.5 solution, okay, per month. That's the thing. So I have a small question, okay, Samir. What's the product vision that you have, and what are you guys? I mean, if you were to run midnight oil, okay, if you were to burn the midnight oil into the night, I mean, every single day, okay, it takes a lot of effort. What's the vision that's driving you guys?
So, See, our job, part of innovation within Amblix is to, generate value for our customers, right? And the team that we have, right, they focused on solutions like they whenever there are problems thrown from customers or partners, the team is very focused and they are very excited to solve those problems without worrying about time and all, right? So, and apart from our delivery team, we have a very strong, apart from our innovation team, we have a very strong delivery team as well who are contributing, right? So that's how we are able to achieve, building more and more solutions day by day.
Wonderful. And then I heard something, this is more of a rumor, I want you to confirm if it is the case. I see Priyath here, and I see a couple of more people from innovation. Is it true that all of them build 2 products with both hands each? Is that correct?
For Priyath, I mean, if I'm joking, then I would say yes, because he has, he's fantastic. Like, the way he can manage his time doing multiple things simultaneously, it's amazing. And yes, I think this product that we are going to talk about, it's again built by him. I'm just presenting, it's all his work. So we have Priyath kind of people.
Let me not hold you and your audience. Let me just leave the stage open to you. Okay. So guys, put your hands together to see what Samir and team have done here at Amblix.
Thank you. Thanks, Nikhil. So as I said, I have the brain of the product that I'm talking about, like AI Agentic Studio, which I'll be discussing today, right? So I think Kamesh gave very insightful session on AI agents and how Snowflake bring intelligence, how we can integrate AI within our applications and so on, right? It's very much focused on within Snowflake how we can use AI. Like there are like products he talked about, Cortex Search, Cortex Analyst, and so on, right? So today my topic is like I'll be talking about AI Agentic Studio. It's one of the solution that we built. It's a generic solution, but today I'm going to talk about how it can combine with Snowflake. It can deliver multi-agent AI workflows. So can you go to the next slide? So I think Kamesh already covered about he introduced about agentic AI, but I just want to give one example, right? What is agentic AI, right? So we are working with ChatGPT and lot of interfaces. Now they are also becoming agentic, but usually you are prompting something and the AI or LLM generative AI, they are responding with some answer, right? So that's a traditional LLM features, but now world is moving toward becoming more agentic, where we have agents who are like autonomous in nature. We provide a goal to agent, and then it will figure out how to achieve that goal, and agents are connected with various tools generally like through MCP or even direct APIs which are connected with the agent, and then based on the goal, it will automatically figure out what path it needs to follow, what tools it needs to call, and achieve their goal, right? So in traditional, in our normal life, if I want to compare agentic AI and traditional thing, right? Then let's say we want to book, we want to plan our travel, right, for some tour. Like let's say we want to go 5-day Northeast India tour, right? Then what we do, we may first ask one agent to give me the plan, like what are the good places to visit. Then for that places we'll figure out where the hotels are. Then we call those hotels and book our tickets, we book our flight tickets, right? So we individually, we may be doing, we will utilize AI to help us to plan our trip and all those things, right? But with agentic AI, the AI itself will be connected with all those flight booking systems, it will be connected with all the travel, hotel booking systems and so on, right? So we just simply say that, I want to travel to Northeast for 5 days, my budget is this, can you create a travel plan for me? And it will automatically connect with the relevant, hotel booking system, it will connect with the travel booking system and so on, and it will it will book all the things for us, and then autonomously without human interaction, it will create the whole travel plan, right? So that's what agentic AI is, right? Where we have a program which is connected with tools, and we provide just goal, and then it will do all those things, right? And that all behind the scene, it will use LLM and other models basically, right? So it's very important, like now people are moving towards agentic AI, how we can enable our our solutions, like how we can enable agentic AI to our applications, right? So from that perspective, we'll talk about like the solution that we have, AI Agentic Studio. Can you go to the next slide? So if we look at, like, before I talk about the AI Agentic Studio, if we look at the whole ecosystem, right? So at the bottom layer we have semiconductors, like all semiconductor companies like NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, they are researching and they are coming up with new chips, like which enable AI to run faster, right? So they are coming up from they are continuously innovating around the infrastructure layer. On top of that, we have cloud infrastructure companies, like who utilize those chips and provide the infrastructure, like so companies like AWS, Google, including Snowflake, like they provide infrastructure where we can run our AI systems, right? And then there are companies who come up with foundation models, LLM models, because to run the AI we need models. So there are companies like OpenAI, Claude, even Snowflake has like Arctic as a model, right? So they are continuously innovating and creating new models, new powerful models. So there also there are a lot of innovations happening. And then on top of that, we have agentic orchestration layer, right? So all these things, like we have the infrastructure, we have model, foundation model, but we want to kind of orchestrate all those things to build our agents, right? Agentic AI solutions. So that's where there are orchestration frameworks like LangGraph, LangChain, semantic kernel, and then I think Kamesh presented at the end, right? He talked about one of the open source, Snowflake's open source framework for orchestration, right? So there are players who are innovating around those, frameworks, right? So the point I want to make is that this combining all these 4 layers, we can say it's a technology layer. Lot of innovation, lot of players are innovating around that, right? But if we look at from the enterprise perspective, how I can adopt all this in my applications, right? So that's the area where the actual money is, right? Why companies go for implementing agentic AI, right? There should be some business benefits, right? So that adoption part, right, is something which is the top layer, like business value layer, where our thought is like bring something there which will accelerate adoption of agentic AI within applications, right? So that with that thought, we thought of like why not we build a solution which will help us to create agentic AI solution with low code, no code interface, and then we can easily integrate within our applications. Can you go to next? So I think the typical challenge is like you have seen like what Kamesh presented, that orchestration code, right? So it's like if you want to build such kind of AI agentic solution, right? With the frameworks, you need the expertise, technical expertise, strong technical expertise, who people who knows about those frameworks, who knows how to integrate with foundation models, who knows how we can integrate with tools and all, right? So somebody with that kind of expertise, they will be needed, and they need to basically write code for building those agents, right. So it's a time taking exercise, and in that exercise, if I want to involve business users, like to collaborate, that also is challenging because it's pure technical. What business user can do is they can simply say this is my requirement, but they will then it's all depend on AI engineer, how they will code and how they will do it, right. They will not be able to kind of collaborate what you are doing and all, right. So with that traditional challenges, right, the need is if we have a GUI where I can drag and drop these components and kind of link them with each other and create my agentic workflows, right. It could be one agent, multiple agent, and connect my agents with tools and so on, right. Then it will be it will bring acceleration to this process. And in that process, it will also help business user to collaborate, like because they will be able to also understand how we are designing it, right. So that's the idea, and with that we built this agentic AI agentic studio solution. So some of the key features are it has interactive drag and drop kind of UI interface, like where we have lot of tools, nodes which are available. We can drag and drop and create a workflow, right. So I'm going to talk about what we have with specific to Snowflake. So all these components which Kamesh explained, right, we have them as a node. So we can drag and drop those components and connect them and then build agentic solution. So that's a kind of drag and drop UI that we have. This framework is extensible. So if currently there are 100 nodes, 100 different nodes are already available, and we want to create our own node, so we can create that custom nodes as well. Within the tool itself, we can, once we create the workflow, we can test that workflow within the workbench, within the studio itself. And then once we build this workflow, we can easily integrate with our applications as well. So it provides multiple ways to integrate. We can integrate with APIs, or there is a client library which and we can export the workflow in some JSON format and then provide that to client library and run the workflows, right. So that is those are the key features, and the key benefits are it will accelerate development. We can quickly prototype. So if I have idea, right, then with limited programming, we can easily drag and drop, construct our idea, prototype it, then validate with business, and then that way it will make your experimentation faster. You can basically quickly create workflows, validate with business, and also then integrate as well. So it will empower collaboration as well. The reason is it's UI based, and we can have a drag and drop kind of interface where business can also with the collaboration of the technical person can understand how the flow is happening. And obviously it will help in cost and efficiency because it will save time. Yeah, can you go next? So I think it's not very visible, but this is the overall architecture, which is a generic architecture in a way. Like we have a front end which is React and TypeScript based front end. Back end is fast API, and then either PostgreSQL or SQLite, we can use it for the metadata store. And so that creates a workbench, right, where the interface where we can create workflows using drag and drop interface, and then within the interface we can have nodes, and those nodes are kind of integrated with various components like LLM providers. Like, so if I want to use OpenAI, Azure OpenAI as a model, I will have a node which I will add it, and I just provide the keys and other authentication details, and my workflow I will have that component ready, right. So like LLM providers, we can connect with vector databases, document loaders. We can also connect tools. Basically it also supports MCP integration as well, and memory stores and API. So basically the front end interface has nodes, and those nodes internally will connect with this integration. And then for deployment, we can have two type of client, as I explained. One is where client is embedding the workflow within the application. So if it's a Python based application, there is a Python library where we can pass our workflow which we created in the tool, and export it, and then use it as a parameter to the library, and it will run the workflow within the application. Second approach is my studio again is a server. So all the workflows are hosted there. We can run those workflow using API. So that's the second approach. So that's a typical architecture of this particular studio. We'll look into detail in terms of Snowflake what we have. Okay. So from Snowflake perspective, as I said, like this is very the way we have designed it. It can be deployed in Snowflake. So we are currently, the demo that we are going to show is this AI Agentic Studio is deployed in Snowflake using Snowflake Container Services. So it's hosted in a Snowflake Container Services. And then within our workflow, when we are building the workflow, we have all the Snowflake Cortex services and functions like Cortex Search, Table Reader, Stage Reader, classify, complete, all the Cortex classify, complete, translate. So all these components which we briefly, I think Kamesh covered, like he covered like Cortex Search, Cortex Analyst. So we have those things, as well as we have like various Snowflake Cortex LLM functions as well. So all those functions are available as a node. So we can drag and drop and create a workflow in the solution. Okay. And then finally, we can call let's say we build an agentic agentic workflow, and I want to call it from my procedure, my transformation procedure, right? So I can invoke that using UDF, right? So we have a UDF. That UDF will call the Agentic Studio API, which is also hosted within Snowflake, and then we can use UDF in our queries or in procedures, right? And then call the agentic workflow, right? And we are going to demonstrate, like I will create a workflow within part of this demo, how easily we can create that, right? Yeah, can you go next? So now from the Snowflake perspective, if we look at the architecture, if I want to use agentic AI Agentic Studio within Snowflake, then we have container services where we will host our AI Agentic Studio, which will be within Snowflake's data cloud. And then we will have a UDF function, which will be using the integration, API integration. So that UDF will call the API, which is also hosted within Snowflake. And then from our traditional pipelines that we create within Snowflake, like raw, harmonize, and analytics, like we have task streams, and we have Snowpipe to bring data, and then once data is there in raw, we have task which will automatically transform the data, right? So in that case, we can also use the UDF, which will call agentic AI to do some analytics, and then it will have Snowpark procedures as well to create our gold or harmonized data, and then we have analytics, right? So that is how the Agentic Studio will fit within Snowflake. So if we want to run within Snowflake for our features, for our function, implementation of our procedures, like where we want to use Agentic AI, we can use in this manner. Can you go next? Okay. So now we'll showcase the demo. Like before we start, I will just first explain you the problem statement, right? So for this demo, what we are going to do is imagine we have a company, e-commerce company, which is selling electronic goods, right? And that company basically collects customer feedback from various channels. So through emails, through social media, we have Twitter handles, and they do surveys as well. Like after somebody purchase the product, they do surveys, like an NPS survey. So we collect those feedback from various users. Now what we want to do is that feedback is like, you know, these products, like it's a multinational company, so there are some feedback which is in other languages, like, you know, we support multi languages, right? So the feedback could be in different languages, right? Second is, if we need to relate that feedback with a specific product and model, right? Whatever, like, you know, I may be giving feedback, but I have not mentioned the specific model and all, right? But I want to relate, like, on this product we are getting this feedback, right? And so we need to correlate that. We need to first translate that. If it is in some other language, we want to kind of streamline that in English so that we can analyze further. We want to basically capture the problems that people are talking about, right, in the feedback. So we have set up problems categories for each product, and we want to extract, like, you know, we want to tag, like, you know, which problem customer is talking about. So we want to tag those problems with that category, right? And then finally we want to do sentiment analysis, like how is the sentiment on the feedback, right? So we can then consolidate sentiment, like on this product overall sentiment is negative because last few months we are receiving all negative feedback, right? So all that kind of analytics if you want to do, right? So generally what you do is, like, there are various AI feature Snowflake provides, like Cortex Translate, Cortex Sentiment and all, right? We need to create our own code, right? And we need to write whole thing, right? And in that also, like, first we need to detect the language. If it is not English, then only we need to do translation and all, right? So now instead of doing that manually, like, you know, writing code and all, we can use the agentic AI approach there, right? And that agent, that particular agentic workflow, we'll design it right now. Okay, we'll quickly drag and drop and implement that functionality, right? So what we are going to like, you know, have is in the workflow, ideally, like, when we fully implement, there will be Snowflake task, like, which is like, you know, called when, I mean, it is connected with those feedback tables, as and when new data is coming in, that through the streams it will call this particular Snowflake task, and from that Snowflake task we will call a stored procedure, and that stored procedure basically call the feedback intelligence agent, and then agent will do everything, right? The agent will have various tools like translation tool, product detail fetch tool, issue experiment, issue extraction tool, and sentiment tool, right? And once that is done, it will be sent back to the procedure, and procedure will store that data back to my gold layer, right, which I can use it for my dashboards and reporting. So in the demo, we are not going to show the whole pipeline, assuming that data pipeline feature we all know, like how to implement, like, streams and all, because if we cover that, it takes a lot of time. So what we are going to do is we'll focus on this area where we'll build that agentic workflow. We already have a pipeline. I assume that we already have a pipeline and data is already coming in, and then we are writing our agent, right, which will, where in that agent will pass the feedback and it will do all this work for us, right? So to do that, what we have is we have, like, email feedback. We have what happened? Yeah, we have email. There are 3 different type of feedback, right? Email, Twitter, and NPS surveys. So we have a tables here, like in our bronze layer, like we have. It's not visible. Can you zoom maybe? Yeah, okay. So if you can see here, like we have email, NPS, and Twitter feedback. There are 3 tables there. So that we are, that like, you know, through an ingestion pipeline, you assume it is continuously getting loaded. Then apart from that, as we want to correlate our feedback with a product, right? So we have a product master. So there is a product master table where all the product attribute, product description, brand, and so on, they are all defined there. What happened? Yeah, it's logged out. So the product master is where we have product specification and everything is defined. And then I talked about categorization, problem categorization, right. So for each product right, we have a category of problems, right. So we have one master table where we have all those category of problems listed there, right. So that is already built in the solution, like we are continuously getting that data in the bronze layer. We assume that this is happening. Now what we are going to do is we are going to use this data. We will create an agent which will utilize this data, and it will create what analytics we want to capture. So now we'll go to our AI Agentic Studio. I'll first briefly talk about showcase the interface. Can you go to the Agentic Studio? Can you just zoom? Yeah, I think this is fine. Okay. Yeah, so if you see I think the URL we can't see, but this URL is like this particular instance is the Agentic Studio is set up in container services within Snowflake. So this URL is from Snowflake. So when we log in, at the time it will ask the Snowflake authentication only, where we can provide our username and password and log in to Agentic Studio using Snowflake's authentication. Yeah, I think he's doing now, Priyath. So it will go to our Snowflake MFA and yeah. So once you log in, what you see is on the left hand side, we'll see all the folders where we want to. So it's a workbench, right? Just like a developer studio, we have a folder structure. So where on the left hand side we have our projects, like our folders. Basically we can create number of workflows within one folder, right. And here, like one of the folder which Priyath is showing, so these are all the different workflows we can search and all. And then when we click, so he opened that particular workflow. So on the right hand side, I think some UI. Can you zoom in maybe? Yeah, just zoom in. So yeah, just zoom in on this workflow side. Yeah. So these are all different nodes, okay. So we can drag, so on the left hand side we have tool pen. From there we can drag and drop the nodes here and connect them. And if you expand the Snowflake, for example, right, so there are number of nodes that we have created, and we are continuously adding, like right now whatever functions and whatever features Snowflake is coming up and which can be utilized in the workflow, we are adding it, right. So that's how, like this is a workbench where we, on the left hand side we see all the tools, and then we can drag and drop and configure, right. So now coming back to our problem, right, where we want to analyze the feedback, we'll create a new workflow. First we'll create a folder. And then we are going to create a new workflow. We are creating a blank workflow, right. So now first step what we will do is we need an agent, right. So agent is everything will be done by the agent, right. So there is an agent node which we have dropped here for considering the time limitation. What we have is we have a configured agent. So within the agent we have all the properties already configured. Otherwise we need to just using the UI only, we just configure all the properties, right. So this agent node which we have dropped here, the agent node need a language model, it needs various tools, input and output, right. So first we will here this agent will need an LLM model to define its plan, reasoning capabilities and so on, right. So we will drag and drop. There is an Azure OpenAI components where he using Azure OpenAI as a LLM model provider, and then GPT 4.1, right. So This is again, we have already configured this, this particular node, and you see here like API key, which model we want to use, everything we need to just configure here, right. And once we create it, we just connect this language model with our agent. So now we have agent which has a LLM access. So using that, like we can give the goal, and then agent will be able to figure out what it needs to do, right. But in this case, we need tools, right, because agent will utilize different tools, like we need to translate the feedback, we need to extract the information, we need to map it with the product and so on, right. So first tool that we want to add it is a translate tool, right. So for that we are using Snowflake. So if you see here, we are using Snowflake Cortex translate. So Snowflake Cortex translate function we have. So we are going to use that to translate the feedback, right. And that agent will decide whether it needs to call that, right. Agent will first detect what is the language of the feedback, and then it will automatically decide. So now this is again translate is configured here, but in order to make this Snowflake translate work, we need to connect it with the Snowflake environment. So we'll add Snowflake session component. So this workflow will be called from our stored procedure, right. So by default, it is in the Snowflake session. So what we are trying to do here is, we have a session object, and we selected the authentication method as OAuth token, right. So from wherever it is called, right, if there is a Snowflake session, it will the same OAuth token will be passed, and it will connect to Snowflake, and that connection information will be passed to our Snowflake Cortex translate function. So whenever translate tool is called, it will be called within Snowflake, right, by through this translate tool, right, and the Snowflake environment that it will use is configured in the session. So now translate is done. Now after translation, next step is we want to correlate our feedback with a product, right. So I think Kamesh explained about Cortex search, right. So we implemented Cortex search within Snowflake on our product table, product master table, right. So now Cortex search service is created, and we have configured, like this is the table which we want to search. So it has already indexed the product master, right. So what we are going to do is, we'll add a Cortex search node here, okay. Again, for Cortex search also we will need to connect the Snowflake. So we'll connect the same Snowflake session, and in Cortex search basically what we are doing right is we are using a particular service, so that we have configured in Snowflake. So this is the Cortex search service which Kamesh explained, right. You can create a search service, and this search service we are providing there in our node, right. Now so then what it will do is, whenever agent want to correlate, it will pass the translated feedback to this, and based on that feedback, it will my product data is indexed, right. So it will use keyword as hybrid search, right. So it will use keyword as well as similarity search, and it will figure out like what are the top 10 product that feedback matches, right, and it will pick up the first one basically, which is having the maximum confidence score. So agent will automatically pick up, right. So now the next step is the next is after we map it with the product, right, we need to basically fetch the relevant problems for the products, right. We talked about like I want to tag the feedback with specific problem. Let's say the problem with display, or problem with like if it's an iPhone, some battery issues are there, right. A lot of people are reporting, right. So I want to categorize, I want to tag the problems with my particular feedback, right, and that is specific to a product. So for that we have another node here, and can you add that? So that node actually is a separate workflow itself. So we can implement that within the same workflow, but just to showcase, like it can be a nested workflow, right. I can have another workflow calling another workflow, right. So we can have that kind of complexity. So now, yeah, Priyat, where are you?
The Cortex search was not saved.
What happened?
Cortex search was not saved, so I was like.
Okay, okay. Now can you add the product fetch thing, right? Workflow. Now open that workflow. So this is another small workflow, right? Which is called from the other workflow, right? So in this workflow again we have an agent, right? And what we are doing is we are using Snowflake query execution, right? So there is a query executor. So what we are doing is from the main workflow it will pass the product category. This is my product category. So that will become input for this particular workflow, and then for that category it will execute this Snowflake query within the Snowflake environment dynamically, whatever category is been passed, and then based on that category next it will format that response into a particular format. So like this, like these are all the different problems available for that particular product category, right? So connectivity issue, camera issue. Right now we are not tagging it with the feedback, but we are just retrieving all the problems that is relevant to that product category, and that this workflow will return and provide it to the main workflow agent. Can you go back to the main agent? Yeah, so now this main agent, right, it will when the product is mapped, the category is identified, it will pass that category to this particular tool and then retrieve all the possible problem category, right? And then it will use that problem categories, the agent itself will automatically use, like these are the problem categories, can you tag it with my feedback, right? So the output will be generated by agent, like which problems are relevant to this particular feedback. And then final one, in the same way we will add the sentiment node. The sentiment node is, again we are using Cortex sentiment, and we need to connect with our Snowflake session. So now we have provided 4 tools to our agent. Now agent when agent needs to be configured with the input and output, right? We need to pass, like this is my feedback, can you tell me what is whatever data I need, can you provide this data like sentiment score, product mapping and everything, right? So we need to connect it with input and output. So it's a simple step. We will just add a chat input and chat output and connect it with our agent, right? So now this is what we created, part of the workflow. Okay. Now the question that you may have, where did we provide the goal, right? I intentionally did not explain that, but if you open the agent, right, in the agent configuration, we provided this goal, right? So where we are not provided like you do this, that, in the specific sequence, right? We just provided information, right? This is what, these are all the things which I want to extract from the feedback. And here are some of the guidelines. Along with that, each of the tool, there are some tool description. So the agent will know about what this tool do, right? So agent will, like when you pass a feedback, the agent will use the LLM model, in this case OpenAI, GPT 4.1, and then ask, like, this is my goal, this is my feedback, now can you tell me what I should do, right? And it will say, like, first you call this tool, then you call this tool, then you call this tool, right? And then the agent will call those tools one by one and pass the whatever information it collects from one tool, it will keep it in memory and pass it to the other tools, right? So that is how it will automatically do. We don't need to provide the guidelines, right? So now that we have configured the whole workflow, now let's test it. So there is a playground option here. When we click on it, it will open a chatbot, right? So in this chatbot, what we will do is, what happened? Okay. So now this is a chatbot, right? We will just simply paste the one particular feedback, right? So we are picking up one of the Twitter feedback, like maybe we'll pick up some feedback from some non-English language, okay? So we will paste that. So in actual scenario, right, instead of chat we will be calling API, but here we are just passing the feedback through chat, right. So now you can see here the agent is doing like, it is accessing tools. So we'll see how exactly it has executed things, right. And now it has written all this, like, the language is Spanish, translated feedback is this, sentiment score is this, right. All the information which we need, the agent has done for us, right. Now go up, yeah. So now how it has done it, right. So first we provided input, this is the feedback, right. So then it identify, I need to first access the translate tool. So it passed this information to the translate tool, like this is the original feedback and target language is English. Then it translated. Next is it is using the search output, right. So it will figure out like which category it is, right. So it has retrieved like this is related to this particular product. Then what is the input value, I mean sentiment score, right. So we provided input and it has created the sentiment score, and then it executed finally the problem category, right. This is, yeah, problem class, right. So which problem class is relevant to it, right, and finally the output is written, okay. So now one problem in this whole workflow, in agent I did not define in which output format it should return, right. So on its own the LLM has written in this particular format, right, but when I want to use it in my pipeline, I may want in a structured format, right. So there is a way to do that. So we'll change the workflow, we'll add a structured output, right, component here. So now again, instead of connecting the chat output, we will connect first the structured output component, and structured output component needs again an LLM model. So again it will use LLM only. It will say that, I need a JSON format, and can you use the LLM model and convert it, right. So this is another agent basically in a way. It will use that LLM agent call, and this is these are the different fields I need. So once we configure it, and again we go to the chat and see, like, now it will generate in a JSON format. The output will be generated in the JSON format. Yes, the same thing we are doing here. What happened? Oh, it's generated. Yeah. So see, this JSON output is generated. Now my workflow is ready. If I want to call this workflow from my UDF, right, I just simply need the workflow ID, and then I need to pass the parameters. So that's what will show. Can you go to the SQL and, yeah, can you zoom a little bit? Okay. So here what we have is there is a UDF function that we already created. I am not creating here. That UDF function is basically, it's very simple UDF function calling the API with these two parameters. So it's mapped with the, using integration we have mapped it with the API, right, and in that we are passing this workflow ID and whatever feedback. So this is a sample select query just to test it, right. So if I am calling this function here, right, yeah. So see, it has written this JSON string, right. So UDF has written this JSON string, right. Now ideally this UDF function we have a stored procedure as well. Can you show that? So this is the whole stored procedure, right. What it does is from bronze layer it is generating the output into the gold layer, right, with all these fields, right. So that is what in that stored procedure we have used the parse JSON. So whatever JSON is passed by the agent, we simply extract it and store it in a table format, right. So this is very simple procedure, right, which is created, and this procedure will run as and when there is a new record in, like, from task and stream, right. So that is how end-to-end pipeline is implemented, and we use agent to do specific thing, right. Now, so this is about this particular demo. As a bonus, we created another demo as well. I am not going to show the exact workflow, but what I think Kamesh talked about Snowflake Cortex Analyst, right. What it does is text to SQL. So you ask your question in normal, natural language, and it will internally return the query, right. So there is a semantic model involved, right. So what we have done is we created a semantic model on our gold table, right, where we have product data, and we created a workflow in our agentic interface, right. In that workflow, what we have is we have an agent. That agent is connected with Snowflake Cortex Analyst node. So the Snowflake Cortex Analyst node, what it will do is will pass our natural language question to that node. It will use it is connected with that particular table, the semantic model. So it will, based on that semantic model, it will generate the SQL query, that it will provide it to the agent. Then agent will use the another node, which is query executor, Snowflake query executor node, where we pass that query and it will execute that query, get the answer for us, right. And then we can have our input and output. So in this case, we will just showcase, like, from playground how it works, right. So we'll ask one question, like, can you give me let me know the products which is having most negative reviews by product category, right. So that is the information which we need, right. So now when we execute it, if you see here, first it has executed the Cortex Analyst. It provided this prompt, and the output will be a query. Then we use this query and we execute this query using the query execution node, and it has returned the data here, right. So now this is how we can end to end, we can integrate this again with any application, like, using API, right. And this need not to be called always from the Snowflake stored procedure. We just shown one way, but I can call it externally from my UI application as well, like, when I want to invoke the agent, right. Okay, so that is what I wanted to showcase. This is all about our AI Agentic Studio. I am open for any questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a small request. So would it be okay for us, Samir is going to be there with us even during the lunch session. So, if it is okay, I will just postpone the question session a bit. Okay.
So does this have the capability to identify, for example, there are scenarios where we have a same customer giving feedback multiple times in a negative sense or a positive sense. Does it identify that also? Does this have that feature as well?
So it is, see, this is a tool with which we can construct the workflow. So what you want can be done. We can use nodes and we can use write nodes to capture that. If my data model also supports that, right? I can provide that information to my agent, and agent will be able to do that. Like, if I have customer ID also there in my database, in this demo we don't have, we just created this simple demo, right? But if I have customer ID, customer information as well, it can also do that.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's put our hands together for Samir
Thanks
and
for
the wonderful
Priyat.
team that built
All,
AI Agentic Studio.
Great work of Priyat. So thank you.
And my apologies, guys, that I'm cutting short the question and answer session. But idea is that we facilitate time for Satish, and Samir is available. So is Priyat. If you guys have any questions, you could definitely. Okay, so let me take something, rent something from David Letterman. My next guest needs no introduction, at least to the Snowflake community. Here is Satish, okay, the Snowflake data superhero, and then the leader of Snowflake community here in Hyderabad. Yeah, is there anything else that I'm missing, Satish?
No, simple.
But I think we're definitely missing a thing or two. So Satish, I just wanted to check a small thing. Our information from NIT Jabalpur says a lot of story about you. Okay, you being a poet, you being a basketball superstar. Would you want to tell us a thing or two about that before you start the session?
It was all during the college. I did from NIT Jalandhar. I like Punjabi food. If anyone from Punjab, anytime you can invite me to your home. I would relish the food. Okay. I know it's late. It's very nice to see such a big crowd. Thanks to you, the team who has put up this. It's one of the biggest crowd for user group meetup for Snowflake. And thanks everyone for coming. And the main thing what we try to deliver in this user group is, I know Snowflake advances very fast. We just came back from the summit. How many of you have followed the summit features or new announcements and all? So we take this platform to bring those features in a platter to you. So I know most of you come from the data engineering background. Everyone are after, learning after Gen AI, or we are trying to advance into the Gen AI capabilities. Okay. The best thing about Snowflake is, along its unique platform where it brings all the features, and it also makes it very simple for the users to make use of the platform to implement all the multiple use cases. So here I am. I will be demonstrating a real-time use case, and there is a user guide which I will be sharing with you. So at the end of this session, once you go back home, you should be able to implement or build data agents on Cortex AI. So that is the objective, and it's very simple with Snowflake. So to talk about it, I am using some custom data on bikes and skis. So this data set is very artificial. You will not have, so that the general LLMs will not have any knowledge on it. So we will try to build insights using this data set. So at the end of it, you should be able to learn the Git integration using Snowflake notebooks, and you should be able to work with the semantic models and set up Cortex Analyst for structured data. And for unstructured data like PDFs and JPEG files, we should be able to set up the Cortex Search. Using this Cortex Analyst and Cortex Search, we can build the Cortex Agents REST API, which we will access from the Streamlit application. So with this objective, let's get started. So I'm going to create a database warehouse. So I'm creating an API integration, and I'm creating a Git API integration. So my API provider is a Git, okay, and I'm accessing the Snowflake GitLabs, and I'm creating a Git repository within the Snowflake itself, and I'm calling the API integration which I have set up, and this is the path where I have my documents. Once I create the Git repository within the Snowflake, let me see if I am able to fetch the latest files. Okay, no changes. I already have fetched it. Now I am going to create a stage within the Snowflake. This is an internal stage. And once I created the stage in Snowflake, I am going to access the documents from the Git repository into my Snowflake stage. If you see, I am fetching the data from the Git repository inside to my Snowflake stage. I am refreshing the stage so that I should have the latest documents, and there are 22 documents. If you see the documents, or if you see the files, These are JPEG files and PDF files. So basically I integrated Git, and whatever the documents I have, I am able to get them locally into the Snowflake. If you see what documents are present, these are the 22 documents. This contains JPEG files and PDF files. If you see the JPEG files, so it has some pics associated with bikes or skis. These are the pictures. In PDF, if I show you some sample reference of PDFs, there are user guides, okay, specification guides, and information related to the components. So I am going to make use of this, or get the information of these PDFs and make use of the JPEG files. What I am going to do, first thing is I am going to make use of, let's say I am going to make use of notebooks. I am going to implement my Cortex search and Cortex analyst using the notebooks. So now this is a notebook, okay, which I am accessing, and if I go to the notebooks, or let me go to the, because everything is fetched from the Git repository, I am going to my databases. This is the database which I created. This is a Git repository. From this Git repository, I am initiating my notebooks. So this is the file, setup tools, IPYNB file. I am creating a notebook out of it. Let's say I am creating SF Hyderabad, name of the notebook, I am calling it as an agent. I am creating this notebook. Let me go ahead and run all the cells within my notebook. I will just explain you, I will quickly go through them. So I am importing my libraries. Once I import my libraries, I am setting up the tool for my unstructured data. I am creating a directory called, or the stage called docs. Then I am able to read through the documentation. First thing is I am creating a table called a raw text, and I am reading the PDF files. Once I am able to read the PDF files, you should be able to see how my sample data is. I am creating a relative path, and I am extracting information from it. Now I am going to create a Cortex search service for my Cortex agents in order to retrieve the information from my PDF and JPEG files. First thing is I already extracted the information from PDF files. So I am creating this table called docs chunks table, and I am going to insert the data into this docs chunk table. Once I inserted the data, if you look at the data, from all the PDFs, I am able to see the data which I am extracting. Once I extracted the data set, I am going to classify. And in order to classify, I am going to make use of the Cortex function. So I'm going to classify the data. I'm classifying the data either as a bike or a snow. These are the two classifications I'm going to do. Structured data. Let me show you a semantic model. I'm going to create. I went to Cortex search. I need to go to Cortex analyst. We have a semantic YML. Let me show you the semantic YML. So this is what we extracted from our Git repository. You can define your semantic model. You are giving a description, and we have 3 tables, 2 dimension tables and 1 fact table. You are specifying on the dim article from which database schema and what and all are the columns and what are the synonyms. So basically you are setting the business context to it. Similarly, I am going to describe related to my other tables. So whatever is the information what we have defined in your YML file, which we will be using for our Cortex analyst. So I am going to exit the editor. If you see, I have given the custom instructions. This is the information related to the tables, dim article, dim customer and fact sets. You should be able to ask questions to my Cortex analyst. It gets the information from the structured data set. Let me ask few questions. I am asking what is an average revenue per transactions per se. So Cortex analyst will retrieve the information from the structured data, whatever we have within the Snowflake. If you see, it is able to interpret the data, and you are able to get for each sales channel whatever is the sales. You will be able to get the sales information. Let me ask one more question. What products are often bought by the customers? These are the products and these are the number of customers. So along with the data set, Cortex analyst, it's a bit different to Cortex analyst. It also gives you, it has access for your information. It just not only generates the query like Copilot can only generate the query, but Cortex analyst, it generates the query and also gives you the output. Now I'm going to use this, let's say I'm going to use the Cortex analyst integration with this Cortex search that improves the retrieval of possible values of columns without listing them all. This information we provided in the YML file as an example. I am going to dim article. If I go to my dimensions in dim article, I have an article. If I try editing it, you will see I have provided in the YML file itself. I provided what are the sample values. I would have deleted the sample values. These are the sample values. Let's say I provided. Let me go ahead and run a query. On top of the sample values, if I am asking what are the total sales for the cravers. I haven't have any sample information related to the cravers. Let us see if Cortex is able to find the context. No, it says it is not able to find any craver products directly. Now it is asking us to recheck the information. Without giving the sample values, I am deleting the sample values. I am going to enable the search service. Basically, the information, though I have specified cravers, I did not have that information in my structured data. Now if I enable the search service, it should be able to fetch the data from my unstructured data, from my PDFs or JPEG, and get the context from them. Let me enable the search service. Now if I ask the same question, let me save it. What are the total sales for Cravers? Again, I got the same response. Let me double check. Now if you see, I am able to get the information. So there is nothing like Cravers. These are, no, it is not able to. Okay, see, if you are able to see, my Cortex analyst previously, it is not able to find what do you mean by Craver products. Okay, but now if you see, model contains information. Now if you see, what are the total sales related to the Craver schemes through partner sales channel. I can ask more questions. Once I am able to get the context from my PDF, you should be able to ask more questions. Let's say, it is able to get the information related to the Cravers case. What I am going to do, I am going to integrate this with my Streamlit app. Okay, so basically, to my Cortex analyst, I have provided the Cortex search functionality. I have combined both, and I am going to use them in my Streamlit app. So this is a Streamlit app. Let me access the Streamlit app. Let me create from the repository. I am creating a Streamlit app, or basically I am accessing the code whatever I am already having in my Git repository. So basically you will be able to interactively connect with Snowflake or ask questions whatever you are doing through this Streamlit app. Let me ask few questions. Okay. Now we are able to see. Let me ask few questions. What is the length of the Cravers keys? So you will get an output response not only as a text, it will also it can also generate images. If you see, it is able to extract the information from the documentations. Whatever are the PDF documents, it is able to generate the information. Or let me ask it a questions where it can it extract the information from the JPEG file. So I am asking if there is any brand in the frame of downhill bike. Let us see the responses. You see, yes, it gives us, there is something called Santa Cruz, and it's also responding with the image, whatever is present. So we can also query the structured data. Now we are able to query the unstructured data from either JPG or PDF files. We can also will be able to query the structured information. Let's say how many cravers are we selling per year in the north region. So this information we get it from the sales data set. See, we are able to get the information from the structured data set as well. So I will not trouble it asking more questions. Indirectly, I will not trouble. Okay. So this is the overview using, and if you see the code, if you see our Streamlit app code, let me share the code with you. If you see, we are running a Cortex agent. In the code, I am just calling an API endpoint with a Cortex agent, and two functionalities I am using. One, I am using a Cortex search documentation for my unstructured data, and I am accessing the semantic model. Semantic model we are using for our Cortex analyst. So using these two, I am able to create a Cortex agent API. So by defining that endpoint, I am able to process the information or get the information from my unstructured data and also from my structured data. So if you see, right, everything we were able to achieve very easily, everything on Snowflake. So Snowflake makes it very easy for you to process your unstructured data along with structured data and build your RAG-based chatbots. Okay. So with that, we will conclude. You would now have known how to build your Cortex agent securely within Snowflake. Along with that, you would also have understanding of how Cortex search and Cortex analyst will work. Okay. And you should be able to do the same hands-on exercise. Please scan this. You should be able to replicate this hands-on exercise at your home. You should be able to scan this. There is a hands-on lab. Whatever I demonstrated, you should be able to do it at your home. In case if you are not part of Hyderabad user group community, there are around 895 people right now. Okay, please share it with your colleagues. At least by the end of this year, we should be able to see over 1,000. Okay, thank you everyone. I will leave this for a while. Please scan this.
Well, thanks a ton, Satish. It's been amazing to have you as a speaker. Let me not block you guys. You know, you go ahead, take your photograph. And by the way, all this information is also available on YouTube. You would have already received the link for it. So in case there are a thing or two that you missed, okay, you could always go back to that channel and then you will be able to see. You should also be receiving it as a part of our acknowledgement mail or a thank mail from our side. So let's take a minute to, first of all, now, I mean, is it okay? Can I come? Yeah. All right, wonderful. So first of all, big thank you, Satish. You know, if I could introduce, so some Abhishek. Satish, we can have you. Okay. I request Samir to pass on our. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you everyone for coming. There are more events planned by the Snowflake Hyderabad user group community. And there are a lot of bigger events like Build event and Data World Tour coming to Hyderabad. So please register as a Snowflake be a part of the Snowflake user group community, and we'll have more hands-on sessions like this.
Now I request Amij to come onto the DS to, Samir, if you could come. So big thank you, Samir. So guys, a small thing. So guys, we would love to understand more about your experience today. We have a small hashtag that we request you to use while you post it on LinkedIn. Okay, it'll be extremely helpful for us to understand what's happening and how we can improve. And then what has been your experience in general. So it'll be extremely helpful if you could use the hashtag that's going to be presented very soon. Okay, so big thank you. Okay, so now a minute if I could take for vote of thanks. First of all, you guys have killed all your inner demons as we were talking, and then made it possible to come over here. So big thanks and big round of applause to all of you. Our wonderful speakers, all the three of them who made this event possible, and then our volunteers. I have a longer list, so I will definitely be reading out each and every person's name out there. And then our team's marketing, L&D, operations, and HR who made this event possible. So thank you all. But let me not forget the most important reason why we are all here. Our partner, Snowflake, who made each of it happen, be it in the form of the ecosystem that they have helped us build, and then the kind of user groups that they have built over the last decade to make it all possible, and then all the data enthusiasts across the city are able to connect, all thanks to them. So a big round of applause for Snowflake. Okay, so and then big thanks also to the leadership at Anblix who made this kind of events possible. As I was saying, we guys kind of do it almost 2 or 3 events every quarter. We request you guys to be a part of our community so that we can we can interact on various forums. Okay, so that's a request. Please do drop your emails and then exchange the cards with us so that we can keep inviting you even to the future events. And then now I'd like to take a minute to thank Abhishek Singh, Deb, Sai, John, Bansi, Lalita, Harsha, Sweta, and Mani for their amazing work. So thank you. To our volunteers today who made it all possible, Anubhav, Kalyani, Pavan Kalyan, Sri Sai, and Yashasvi for making it all possible again. So thank you all. And then I'll request you guys to join us for lunch. And then lunch is going to be served at the, So mandatory group picture. It'll be great if you guys can all come onto this dais, please.
Thank you, Nikhil, for organizing the event and also to make sure that there is a smooth flow between sessions. Amish, if you can please come on. We want to give you a small memento for this.